Hey guys, Oceanmud here. So I was thinking about the newer players that are transitioning from PS4 and Xbox, and they don't have the leg up that normal players do from the PC because they haven't had the time to experiment. And so I thought that I would try to give them a little catch-up lesson in how to pass. Now, this might not be how everybody passes. If you ask people, they might tell you different things. But I would like to tell you how I pass. And I'm kind of an aggressive player. So keep that in mind. If you guys remember, I used to do Crohn's passing in open beta. I would do Nova pass. So my type of passes are unique. And I've heard from some people, high school people, that I'm one of the most difficult people to play against because I'm very unpredictable in my passes. They just have no idea what I'm going to pass. So I'd like to go over that a little bit. I'm not going to go over what's going to happen if you're the second player because I think that pretty much plays itself. I think that one of the most difficult things about passing is if you're the first player. If you're the first player and you just don't know when you're supposed to be passing. So I'm going to go over that and a few other things. Don't mind me if I look at my notes. It shouldn't be too long. I have a couple paragraphs here, but it is getting kind of complicated, so I had to write it down even for myself. Even though like I can go through it, the motions innately, but to actually like explain it, you have to write it down, I think. So the most important thing when you're on the blue coin, when you're going first, is that you cannot lose uneven. If you lose uneven at any point, then your opponent can bleed you. The reason why it's not good that the opponent bleeds you round 2, because they can't bleed you round 3 because that's the end of the round. If they bleed you round 2, is that you have to match their tempo at all times. Let's say you're at 7 cards. Let's say, for example, you pass, they pass, you both draw 3 cards, and then you're at 7 cards. If they play a 10-point card and you cannot match that 10-point card, you are going down a card. They will pass and you're going down a card. So losing round 1 uneven is one of the worst possible things that can happen. The second player also gets round 3 going last, and that's a huge advantage too. So what I'm going to try to go over is how can you prevent yourself from losing uneven, and is there any situation where you want to lose uneven? So the easiest thing that you can do to prevent yourself from losing uneven is tactical advantage. What I see a lot of newer players do, and I even see some people on Pro Ladder do this, they use tactical advantage early. So they have an engine, they don't want that engine to die, so they put tactical advantage on that engine. And in theory, that's a great idea. But what do you do when the opponent is able to control that unit in 1 card and your tactical advantage is now gone? The reason why CDPR made tactical advantage immune and vulnerable in my mind is that you have to use it in the right time. So if you use it immediately and it just gets gone in 1 card from the opponent, then the rest of that round, it's almost like you're just a card down and you're trying to win an uphill battle. So I do not recommend using tactical advantage early on an engine, because if the engine sticks, then it sticks. If it's gone, well, that shouldn't be your only game plan anyway for that round. All right, so when should you use tactical advantage? I think that a good strategy to use tactical advantage, a very safe strategy, is when you're at 6 cards. You're at 6 cards and you're about to go down to 5. You use tactical advantage and you play a power play. So any power play is like 10 points or something. So you should be about 15 points up on the opponent. And that would make it to where you're at 4 cards, the opponent's at 5, and they have to match you. If they can match you at 15 points, well, I mean, you got to figure some stuff out. I'll go over that later, but they shouldn't be able to. So you'll go down to 5 cards. They probably can't match you at 5 cards, so they have to go down to 4. You pass at 5, so you're safely out of that round, and you're losing 1 card up. So that's important because round 2, the opponent can no longer bleed you. If they're trying to bleed you, then they're threatening, if you match them at any card, then they're threatening to lose a card down. So they're not going to want to do that, so they'll pass. So that's what you have to do from card 6 to card 5. Now, there's 2 ways to handle it if they match you from 6 to 5. So you can decide, I can either lose on even, and you probably want to lose on even if you have like very slow cards in your hand, like artifacts. Or you can decide, can I win round 1 going down or safely get out without using my leader ability? You do not want to use your leader ability round 1 if it's a one-use leader ability. Because if you use that leader ability and you win the round, the opponent's not going to use theirs, so it'll just pass. And it's almost like they're a card up, because a leader ability is kind of like 1 card to me. So you can't use your leader ability. So what you have to do is, if you're going to stick in that round and you just want to get out, because like I said, you don't want to lose on even, then you need to play another power play. You need to play something 10 points, 11 points, 12 points to really solidify your lead and try to get out of the round. So at 5 cards, you should be trying to get out of the round. At 4 cards, you should definitely be trying to get out of the round without using leader ability. So what happens? How do you get in that spot? Because if you get in the spot where you're 5 cards and they're matching you, you should be able to see that early on. You, like at card 9, at card 8, they play like a 7, an 8-point card, and you're playing 3s and 4s, and they're just getting crushed by the opponent's removal. Then at 7 cards, you need to be playing tactical advantage and trying to get out of the round. From 7 cards to 6 cards. So you see how I pushed it up 1 card up? You need to push it up a card. If you have to, push it up another card. Go from 8 to 7. Because if the opponent can't match you and they go from 7 to 6, then you can still pass. And yes, you'll be at 10 and they'll be at 9. But at least that way they can't bleed you round 2. And if they can bleed you round 2, they better not try to bleed you down to 7. Because once they hit 7, and if you're able to match them and they play 1 more card, then it's game over. You'll just be matching their tempo. So that's what you're supposed to do, I believe, when you're on blue coin, when you have the tactical advantage and you're playing defensively. You can also play offensively though. But just to summarize right quick, so what I recommend is that you don't use your tactical advantage too early. And most times you want to use it from going 6 cards to 5 cards, the tactical advantage, in order to create a power play, and the opponent would have to go down to 4 cards, and that way they're at 7 cards and you're at 8 cards, and they can no longer try to bleed you. But you can also play it offensively, and this is what I like to do. So what you do is, if you see, and you can't force this from happening, but if you're crushing the opponent when they're red, when they're going second rather, let's say that they play an engine and you're in R and you vest it. You now have a 3-point advantage over them. And let's say they play another card and you Chiron-X it or something without the unicorn. And so you have like a 10-point advantage of like 7 cards. Then what I would do is from 7 to 6, I would throw down the tactical advantage offensively, because not defensively, because if it's defensively, then that would mean that you're on the back foot, but you're playing offensive. So you play tactical advantage at 7 to 6, and then you play a power play, 10-point play or whatever. So you should be about 25 points up at that point. Now, the opponent has to respect those points. The opponent cannot play like a 5-point play. Because if they play like a 5-point play, then you're essentially 20 points up. They have 2 cards to match that 20 points. You pass, and they probably can't do it without using a leader ability. And so you've essentially outplayed your opponent. If they use their leader ability just to win that round, even if they go 5 and you're at 6, then you're essentially a card up on them. And if they are able to match the 20 points, well, they had to use 2 big cards to do that. So even then, they can't bleed you round 2 because you're at 6 cards and they're at 4 cards. So even then, you outplayed them. Not really, but it's not the worst case in the world for you. So what that leads us with is mulligans. I would not try to mulligan round 1 unless you absolutely have to. If there's Witchers, if there's Roach, if there's any summon tutor cards like Blue Stripe Commandos, Imperial Brigade, something like that. Hold all your mulligans that you can for round 3, because that's where your premium cards are in your deck, and that's your best case to find them. So yeah, I had the thought in my head just to go over what I would do, what I do round 1 when I'm on blue coin, because no one cares about red coin. You can figure that out. It's very hard to mess it up. And not only that, but if you're on blue coin, if you're going first, then by listening to this video and going through the motions, you should be able to recognize what the opponent's trying to do, and you won't lose anyway. So just try to keep in mind the things that I'm talking about, when to use tactical advantage. I think that's the most important thing. And I think you'll get out of round 1 ahead, because you have to set up the rounds. If you don't give yourself a decent round 1, then you're just going to fail in the other rounds. So thanks so much for watching this video. If you'd like to see more content that I create, then just head on over to my channel, and I'll see you next time.